Hello, I'm Flamingo Writer here, and I'm here to talk about more Magical Girls for the month of Magical Girl Month. Now, before we get started, gather around, kids, as I myself used to be a dread when it comes to Anime Zone. It didn't start off that way, of course. As a kid, I never actually intended to not to want to watch anime, but as a kid, I didn't really have much choice what to watch, whatever I could, though. So at the time, though, I was not really immune to anime until, say, late 2019, around September or October. It really depends on that, though. Now, I know some people in my audience are probably thinking, why did it take so long, despite that I'm a 2000s kid? Well, that's mostly because, to give you a blatant idea, though, I've never really intended to like anime from that time era. I mean, I guess you could say it's mostly because I didn't have that much of a choice, but that's beside the point, though. Back in 2020, back when the pandemic was hitting at that time era from where I'm from, yeah, I'm from the US, in case that wasn't obvious already, I really didn't have much opportunities with myself, though. So around that time era, I really had no other choice but to do whatever I could. Even after work, though, I had to go ahead and say, you know what, I might as well just dive into something that I'm not familiar with and see where it takes from there, though. Of course, at that time, when I was watching something around Soul Eater, that's where my hook got around pretty good at the time, though, when I started watching anime. Now, before you say anything, I get some people are going to say that anime has been around longer than that, but this is when I was starting to do my phase, anyways. And chances are, even if I did come across on that, though, it would probably be more gatekeeping than what it could have been, though. Some people in my audience are probably thinking, how did anime really change my life a bit? Well, that's what we're getting into. So, as such, it's about time to talk about a series that actually gravitated me to talk about anime besides Soul Eater. And there were some others. Yeah, I did watch others before then, like Sailor Moon, but that was only because I wanted to see what Sailor Moon was like. This was during the time when anime was still growing into me, though, and as such, though, I had no other choice but to see what's on YouTube and on, say, Netflix. And that such, though, on Netflix, that's really what I have to say in its own favor, though. If it weren't for that site alone, I probably wouldn't have gotten into anime that I am into now. Though I know how much they love to abruptly cancel some of their stuff, so that's to be expected. But what's not to be expected is how much this actually grew on to me entirely, though. Aside from that, though, there were a few anime that actually gravitated my attention. Aside from Sailor Moon, there was also not just Soul Eater, but also some others along the way. Those others being Little Witch Academia, which we'll get to next time, or on High School Host Club, a series that I still love to this day, if anyone's going to ask about it, and as well as I say when I first started watching something from Clamp for the first time, it was Holic. And as such, though, I still love what I have here. But unfortunately, while I do love those there, though, the one that gravitated the most attention for me was the series we're going to be taking a look at today, Kill a Kill. Kill a Kill is one of those series I still love to this day, though. And I know what you guys are thinking. How can I love something that has mostly fan service and nothing but batshit insane and clothing in the mix, though? Well, if you haven't seen the series, you're probably asking yourself, what is Kill a Kill? Well, let's go ahead into it and see what lies in store, though. For those who need a fresh summary, though, Kill a Kill talks about the story of our teenage girl heroine, Ryoko Matoi. Unfortunately, though, while she does seem like a delinquent in her own right, though, not anyone can have her worship anything like that, though. But this is also due to the fact that while she does seem like she's going to go to a new school known as Hanoja Academy. It's here where she actually tries to figure out who's the person who killed her father. Yeah, the scissor blade right there, that's one of the first halves anyway. As such, though, she is doing her best to try to now with the long trackings along the way. Along comes across her new best friend and such, Mako. And Mako is really one of those characters I think of when it comes to Pinkie Pie never wanting to stop. Though, unlike Pinkie Pie, she actually turns out to be more enjoyable than you may think, though. I know some people are going to think that's a little harsh, though, but really, Pinkie Pie can get a little bit on my nerves at times, though. But Mako, on the other hand, I think what made her stand out more is that she actually stands among the crowd by saying that she really does care for Ryoko Matoi. Despite hey, Ryoko being boisterous and all that stuff, though, Mako is more well, not boisterous, but she is hyperactive at times, though, which I really get a kick out of whenever she makes me laugh. She also goes ahead and brags about how much Ryoko has saved her life from the first episode, and I have to admit, it's pretty well thought out and pretty cute in its own way, though. Honestly, though, what really makes it stand out, though, is also that despite Ryoko trying to find out the person who killed her father, especially when she goes to confront the woman, Natsuki, and as such, though, some things go batshit insane too. While still trying to fight her, though, a army of bodyguards, or in this case, her fellow uh, pupil friends. I'm not sure what to say about this your term, but honestly, though, I'd like to think of them as her group of friends, though. As such, though, while trying to fight back, though, Ryoko decides to give up, for now at least, and starts mourning over how she and find the person who killed her father. As such, though, she get caught into the basement where she accidentally cuts herself, bleeding in the process, and a uniform comes to life and puts it on her. Yeah, I just said that, and I'm not taking that back. Because of this, though, Second Cats, the uniform's name anyway, is really the one that is going to help Ryoko Mato out. How to find out who killed her father. And from there, though, it's more like what happens when Batchin Insane goes into battle mode, and also with the story along with it, though. Now, one thing for sure when it comes to something like this series, I must confess, I thought at first when watching this, I thought it was just in for something like the fan service, and that's about it. Which I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I don't hate something with fan service automatically in it, but it can be a bit distracting for those who actually plan on watching something like that. Yeah, this is one case where I got accused of liking Kill la Kill because it has fan service, and me being a curious adult and everything, I was immediately getting hooked by it. I'm not saying it's a bad series, far from it. It's actually, in my opinion, one of the better series with fan service in it. But the amount of fan service in this series can be a bit distracting to some people. But as for me, well, the reason why I love it is not because of fan service. I mean, that would make me a perv. No, the reason why I love it is because, well, if you want to know my story behind, sure, but it's also due to the action. This action is done by Studio Trigger, which is also the animation studio behind the series. And if you're anyone who's seen something like Gurren Lagann or their Studio Gainax series, though, then Studio Trigger was actually the Koa production team that actually made its own stuff, though. And this was actually their first works out there, period. And honestly, though, I really find that admiring to see something like that. You would think that despite Ryoko being well, a delinquent, she would be, well, I'm just a bitchy person and you can't get in my way. But characters like her, along with Yusuke Urashima from Yu Yu Hakusho, always gravitate my attention. As long as they don't act like, say, a completely dislikable character, I won't hate them or anything like that. That said, however, I can kind of see why some people would not like Ryoko despite that, but keep in mind, she's only trying to find out who killed her father, and while I won't spoil too much of the series, in case you want to see this for yourself, though admittedly it can be ungravitating for some people who aren't into skimpy outfits, then chances are it's not going to gravitate you as much as it did for me, though. Personally, I love what they do with this year's series. And like I said, it's not because of the fan service, it's not because of plot, literal at this point. It's really because I was invested in those action scenes in itself, though. Though it did take me a while to watch this when it was on quarantine that time because, okay, I know there's a little backstory of myself personally still, but I need to confess with you guys. I had to work around the quarantine time. And aside from this, along with some other shows I were watching that were anime based, like say Oron High School Host Club, Blue Witch Academia, as well as say what other anime did I watch? Panty and Stocking with Garter Belt, and as well as Sailor Eater and Holic. All of those were series that I had no other choice but to watch for myself because I really wanted to see where it was taking it from there, though. And honestly, while working at the time, though, I didn't really have much opportunities to do anything but to watch series after work, though. I didn't really know what to say about myself when watching Kill la Kill for the first time, but after watching episode one and then after that, I kept going on and on. It really enlightened me, not just with the action scenes, but also for how well it's executed. Like some people are gonna say commenting thinking, why not the outfits? Well, the outfits themselves are called Goku uniforms. Rest in peace, Akira and Toriyama. Yeah, no, needless to say, though, they really named it after Dragon Ball's character. But honestly, I don't really mind that. What really gravitates me, though, is how well these outfits are. See, these outfits are their weapons. And you might think that's a strange idea on paper, but come on, guys. Anime will do something strange. Hell, it's better be strange in my book than be I don't even want to talk about because I'm still dealing with what's going on right now on my channel, as well as you've seen my community posts every now and then. But still, I think what really gets to me is though is that this is one series that, despite that it came out into 2013 and it got a dub a few years later, I confess I didn't really watch it that time. Again, I didn't really have cable that time. I didn't really have much opportunities to watch it, and on the sad side though, I didn't really have that much to work with when it comes to anime at that time. I didn't really get a chance to watch it until yeah, at this 7 years later or 5 years later if you're from the US like I am when it got a proper English dub. Now, I'm not saying that it's really the show's fault in continuum though. I didn't have any idea of knowing Kill la Kill at that time though. But the time I started watching it on Netflix, that's where my own anime phase started pumping up. And I said to myself, how come I've never seen this before? This is amazing. Like, not just for how it's written and the action, but also for how much I want to see more of it. I was more likely to binge through this series, but considering that I had other shows to watch, like I said, shows I've seen before now, yeah, that's why I didn't really watch it all the way though. And don't get me wrong, I did watch it the rest of it entirely, but it wasn't until I think it was around July though, because I know I started watching more anime since springtime or early summertime. I'm not really sure though, because it's been years since then that time though. But even with that said, I still love this year's series though. Now, I will admit, while yes, Kill la Kill is not going to appeal to everyone, including the outfits and including for what they do with the series and Continuum though, but I don't really think that's much of a stretch to say that nobody should really watch this series. Though thankfully there aren't, say, little kids watching this series though, because well, let's be honest though, this series is definitely not for kids. Not just for swearing, not just for the gore, even though for someone who doesn't like gore, I will say it did gravitate my attention off by saying no, I'm not watching with blood. But I think I was able to get past it because blood was not really the main focus on here. It's not like something like, say, Elfen Lied, where because they killed people for the sake of violence. And yes, before you say anything, I'm not a fan of Elfen Lied. Big deal. But I don't want to say that as in for this series. What really makes this series work is how well these characters were written, the animation. Come on, it's Studio Trigger. Studio Trigger is known for having stuff like this with their great stuff every now and then. No, not just with this series, but the series we'll take a look at next time, Little Witch Academia, is also animated by Studio Trigger. And as well as say what happens when the series does have its twists and turns here and there. And I'm not gonna lie, it really got to me right away though. Maybe it's the fact that the twist came out of, say, a plot twist because it came out of nowhere for some people, but I actually don't mind that. Kill la Kill is still a series that I still love, even to this day, though. But that said, I wouldn't say everyone should watch it, though. Not just the kids who shouldn't be watching it, but also anybody who's not into fan servicey outfits like this. But if you can get past all that, I don't really see a problem with that. Though there is a few problems I do have with this series. Aside from having 24 episodes and OVA shortly coming out afterwards, which completed the story in its own runtime, my biggest issue would have to be from I think episode 16. Now, I'm not going to explain the detail what goes on in that episode, but let's just say it does get uncomfortable in one scene in particular. But that's only happens one time though. And let's be honest though, I don't think my computer will allow me to say what goes on in that scene in particular though. That said, however, other than that though, I still recommend the series if you're into batshit insane action or anything to get along with that, though. Though the other problem I have with the series is, well, if you're anyone like me, I don't like series that are way too short as it is, though. Though I think with this amount of runtime, like up there with Princess Tutu. It's not that long to watch anyway. As for the voice cast, well, the voice cast itself, if you've seen my Sailor Moon podcast, this here series has some of those voice actors as well, though. Erica Mendez plays Ryoko Matoi. Hey, Christina. Uh, yeah, I already said it in the podcast. And yes, before you say anything, it did say this in the comment, but I did butcher Saturn by saying Sailor Pluto again. So yeah, call me a dumbass in the comments if you don't mind. And there's also the one who plays Sailor Saturn. She's the one who also plays Mako in the series. Though she plays another Magical Girl series in herself, though. But we won't get to that when we get to that this month sometime. Let me see here. I'm gonna look right here. So we'll be looking at that on next Monday. The series Madoka Magica. In case you guys are wondering what that series was, though. And there's also some other characters, like also like that says Satsuki, who was actually one of my favorite characters out there. And honestly, though, despite being all bold and all that stuff, she actually does show a lot more than she could be at times, though. And not gonna lie, I still love what she does here, though. And let's not forget that her voice actor is voiced by Kari Carey, who also voiced the other characters along the way. She was known for voicing the Netflix dub version of Masado or Amisado or something like that. I can never pronounce her name right. I'm sorry, guys. I'm really bad with Japanese. Can you tell? And it's also worth pointing out that she was also known for doing 4Kids voice actors, but I also mostly know her for there's some other voice roles, especially one I'm watching right now, Goku Sin, where she played the main gangsta in here, though. Though she does have Kappa Mikey and Miraculous Secrets, though, so there you have it, as well as some other Miraculous Ladybug projects that she worked on. And there's also some other voice actors too I could get into, like Todd Habercorn and Patrick Seitz. I think that's how you pronounce the name. Again, I'm not good with names if it comes to different languages. I'm really one with a Spanish accent though, and as well as my English accent, but still. And we also I got Stephanie Shea, who also plays Niue. And I'm not going to spoil too much if you haven't seen the series about who Niue is, but let's just say she's not all of what she seems, despite being cutesy and all that stuff. Yeah, Kill la Kill is still a fun watch, and I'm surprised that a lot of people kind of seem to love it when I was looking it up, though, but I can kind of see why my audience wouldn't like it if they going to judge by. Though I do know some people are going to think I'm a perv now that I say I love this series, but again, I don't watch this because of the fan service. I love it because of the action and how much it really gravitated my attention when watching the series with its own scenes here and there. So if you're anyone who is into something like this, go ahead and watch it. But don't watch it in front of your kids. Still, though, with that milk situation, I'm still going through it as enough as it is. On Friday, however, we're going to take a look at another Magical Girl series, but like I said earlier, it's going to be Little Witch Academia, so sorry for the spoiler. Until then, though, I thank you all so much for listening to this podcast. This is Flamingo Writer, and as always, stay Flamingo-tastic.